Hello friends, so welcome to another video of our video series on Jetpack Compose. So in the previous video we have seen that how we can use states to change the value of any widget on the UI, and in this video we'll be deep diving in how state works in Jetpack Compose and what are some of the negative effects of using states and why we should care about using states at what level in our UI. Obviously, states are one of the core and essential part of Jetpack Compose. And by negative effect, I am not saying that you shouldn't use states, but I'm saying that you should use states in a very by first thinking that how you should use it and where exactly you should use it and where you should define it and things like that. So first of all, let's do a quick recap. So in the previous example, we've created a state and we've then used a state in a text, and we on the click of a button, we've incremented the state. And as soon as we were changing this state on the button click, we can see that the changes were reflected immediately on the UI like this. Like if I'm clicking on the button, as you can see, the changes are reflected immediately on the UI. So this is a quick recap of what we've done in the previous video. So in this video we will see a little bit more, we will learn a little bit more about this state thing. So now let's say we have another variable, maybe button text we can call it, and let's give it a value click me, and let's initialize it y0, click me 0, and simply let's try to use this value over here. Okay, and now let's first run our application to see if this is happening or not. So we can see that the change is over here and the button click is working as it was working previously, and this count value is changing. Okay, so now let's say we also change this value to something else. Let's say maybe click me, and we can use this count over here. Okay, or click me, let's say click me 1. Let's not use even the count. Okay, let's define it here. Let's say we are changing it from click me 0 to click me 1, and we are using it here. Will this reflect any change to our UI? First let's test it. Okay, so now it's click me 0 because initial value was this, and count value is 0 because initial value was 0. Now let's try clicking the button. 1 2 3 4 5 6. No change is reflecting over here, right? Because this is not a state. So to do that we can convert it to a state. Let's say mutable state of, and we can define it here like this. And now if we again run our application, this should reflect, right? See, now this is reflecting. It changed to click me 1 when I clicked on the button because this is a state, and compose will keep track of the states and which widget is using which state, and will update it accordingly. Now let's also create another text over here. Okay, let's say maybe text to value, and let's define it as 0. Okay, and let's use it over here. Okay, so now first we'll run our application to see if this is appearing on the UI or not. Yeah, we can see this widget over here. So first let's align the elements. Actually, let's use a modifier to actually uh, change the UI and make to take this widget in the center of the screen. Let's first run our application. So now what we need to do is we need to set the alignments. So horizontal alignment can be alignment dot center horizontally, and vertical too can be arrangement dot center. Okay, now try running our application again. Yeah, as we can see, all the complete widget is now using these properties. It had uh, made this element to be aligned center both horizontally and vertically. So now we can clearly see the UI that this text view is also drawn on the screen. Now let's also try changing the value of this text to something, let's say maybe, oh, it's an integer, so let's also increment this to by 1. Okay, but this is not a state. Okay, this is just a variable of type integer. For more understanding, I can also type the data type of this particular variable. So now let's try running our application. So initial value is 0. So now if I click on the button, you can see this value is also changing, right? If I click on it, this will keep changing this value. Why this is happening, right? This is not even a state, this is just a integer. Okay, the data type is integer. Then why exactly is this happening? Because whenever you do change any state, okay, the composer will not just recompose one child which is using that state, but it will actually recompose the parent. It will tell, it will give the information to the nearest parent that hey, I am changing, just recompose the variables or decompose the widgets. Okay, so it will transfer this information to the parent. So the nearest parent was this column, so that's why this is happening. So that's why you should use these states wisely. Okay, you shouldn't be like that wherever you need to change a value simply put a state. You should be very aware of that where you should actually use it. Okay, and now let's say if I cut this value from here and if I put this value here, what will happen? Let's find it. Okay, let's run our application and try clicking this button, and as you can see now this value is not reflecting any change. So why this is happening? Why just putting this inside this function is now not taking any change? So to do that, to actually see why this is happening, let's add some logs over here. Let's add a log. Let's give a tag name, maybe same as function name. Let's give it same as function name. Let's call it recomposed, or simply call it composed. Okay, let's try running this and let's print this in our logcat. We are already doing that. So it is printing it because I have just reran our application, so that's why it printed this in our logcat. Now let's try clicking the button. If I clicked it, see, this is getting printed every time because this widget is having this child and this is recomposing itself. Okay, and that's why whenever I am changing any value, whenever I am changing any value inside it, this is actually recomposing itself and this log is getting printed again. And that's why obviously this property will be called again every time it will recompose. And even if the value is incremented here, let me minimize this. Even if the value is incremented here, whenever it will recompose, it will reinitialize the value to 0. That's why you are not able to see any change here. Okay, so because it was previously a global property defined here, so it will not reinitialize to 0, but it will keep incrementing. That's why that thing was happening. Let's try running it again, and now you should see this value getting incremented and be reflecting the latest change like this. Okay, so we should consider all the possible cases and scenarios that how and where we should use these states. And in future videos I'll show you better ways to use these states, better ways to handle these states without recomposing a lot of things unnecessarily. So stay tuned and do hit the subscribe button to get, and hit the notification icon as well to get notified about future videos. So stay tuned and take care. Bye bye.